Hi everybody. Can you believe we're already getting into week 3? This week you're going to be asked to do several things that are a little bit out of the ordinary. The first one, the discussion board topic, asks that you be a little bit imaginative and project yourself into the future. Either what you expect to be your real future or just a hypothetical future that you would like to explore a little bit. The discussion board topic asks that you look at a list of specialty courts. These specialty courts may or may not exist in the state where you live. It doesn't matter. Just look at the list, choose one of those specialty courts, and imagine yourself as having to deal with that court, either as a party or as a court participant, as a law enforcement officer, as whatever sort of participant you would like to assume the role of. And then just describe how you would deal with that court and what you would expect the outcome to be. Also, this week we're going to have, we're going to get into a couple of legal concepts that we began last week, jurisdiction and venue. But in connection with that, you will be asked to complete the first milestone toward your final project. The final project in this course asks that you deal with several aspects of a hypothetical case scenario. This kind of exercise is very typical of the sort of thing you would be doing in law school or in many other graduate forms of study. But in our case, what you're going to be doing is reading the fact scenario, which will be printed in your Milestone One instructions. Take that fact scenario, read it many times, over and over again, not just this week, but every week as we go forward in this course, because you're going to constantly be referring back to that scenario. You need to know it cold. You need to know the facts accurately. As you get into those facts and into the questions about those facts that the Milestone One is asking you to answer, you will explore the concepts of jurisdiction and venue. And let me go over those again with you a little bit. I touched on them in my last video, but we're going to get into them in more depth this week. Jurisdiction has to do with the authority of a court to hear a certain kind of case. So when you read a description of a case, or when you read the facts of what will be a case, one of the first things you have to ask yourself is, what kind of legal case would this be? Would it be a civil case? Would it be a criminal case? Would it be a case involving juveniles? Would it be a case involving a family court? Would it be a case involving land? All of these questions will come up and have to be answered when you're determining what court would have jurisdiction over the case, because jurisdiction depends on the kind of case it is. Not all courts are empowered to hear all kinds of cases. For instance, a juvenile court is not empowered to try an adult criminal case, and a juvenile court is not empowered to hear a divorce proceeding. You have to fit your case into the court's jurisdiction. So as you're reading our final scenario case, you have to decide what kind of case it is. Well, I'll tell you. I'm going to spoil the surprise here. It's a criminal case. Surprise! So you have to decide what kind of criminal case this is. Not only what crime it is, but whose law it violates. Does it violate a state law? Does it violate federal law? And then, once you've determined the answer to that question, you have to decide, or guess anyway, which court and where would have jurisdiction and venue over this case. Now remember that there is one overriding, well, I shouldn't say remember because you may not know this, but there is one overriding principle that determines venue in a criminal case, any criminal case, and that is that crimes are tried in the place where they were committed, almost without exception. The only exceptions are, or the most common exception, I should say, is that the the court in the place where the crime was committed is somehow biased, or it can't impanel an unbiased jury for whatever reason. So sometimes criminal cases are moved from the place where they were committed to usually to a fairly nearby locality. Say, for instance, you're in County A, and County B is right beside it, and you can't impanel an impartial jury in County A where the crime was committed, then chances are pretty good that the case would be moved to County B, the nearest convenient location. However, in criminal cases, that kind of change of venue is really very rare. You read about it sometimes in the newspaper because cases that make the news are often those cases in which a change of venue is requested, simply because of all of the publicity surrounding them. The vast majority of cases, however, don't get that kind of publicity, and so those cases, and here I'm talking about criminal cases, are tried where they are committed. Civil cases, on the other hand, the venue for those cases is determined in a different way. The venue for the case really can turn on one or two of three considerations. One, where was the offense committed? Now, I don't mean a criminal offense here, but the problem that gave rise to the lawsuit. That's not as important as it is in a criminal case. What's more important in a civil case is where the parties live, especially where the defendant lives. If you're going to sue somebody, you're the plaintiff, the best place you can bring that lawsuit is the place where the defendant lives. And I say it's the best place. It's not really the best for you as a plaintiff, but it's the best in terms of getting an actual case in court, because the defendant will have no reason to object to that venue. It's not inconvenient for the defendant because it's where he lives, and it's not a place that would necessarily be unfair to the defendant, again, because it's where he lives. So civil cases are, the venue for civil cases is judged very differently than it is for criminal cases. Keep that in mind as you're going through all the material in this week's module, and as you are working on Milestone One. Now, the discussion board is asking you again to pretend that you are dealing with a specialty court. Now, this doesn't really have to do with jurisdiction and venue so much as it has to do with exploring and getting to be familiar with the kinds of jurisdiction that exist and the parameters of the authority that a certain kind of court will have. As you get into this week, if you ever have any questions, and this is true of this week and every week, please email me with those questions as soon as they pop into your head, and I will try my best to answer you. You can, of course, ask those questions in the general discussion board, and I'm happy to try to answer them there, and that way everybody can see the answer. But if you want something answered very quickly, I get my emails, really almost as soon as they come in, so that's the fastest way to get in touch with me. I'm going to be quiet now because I've gone on a little too long, but good luck to you this week. Let me know if you have any problems, especially with the milestone, because this is something a little bit different, and I will be talking with you in the discussion boards. Bye.